Habits. This was such a cool thing for me to prepare for because I started to look at things and the realization is this. The quality of our habits does create the quality of our world. Here's what I found out in just kind of researching is that 40% of our actions are not made from conscious decisions, but from habits. So if we look at that and we say 40% of my life is done unconsciously, it might be important for us to look at this and say, how do I make sure that the 40% that's done unconsciously is moving me in the direction of where I want to go? Does that make sense? Okay, because here's the deal. Our mind is trying to make things as easy on us as possible. And that's why it creates the routines and the habits and everything. And so the greatest research shows that the best way to bring change to your life, and as Brendan said, change to society, is by creating new routines until they become habits. They will become unconscious because you eliminate the friction of the decisions. Here's the challenge. They become unconscious and you eliminate the friction of decisions, whether they're actually good habits or bad habits. So whether it's picking up something to smoke, whether it's bad habits of, eating fast food or convenience or those things, those are unconscious a lot of times. We're not consciously saying, I'm going to put this poison in my body. I mean, come on. But yet, what happens is these habits often get created unconsciously. We don't realize that we are even running the pattern in our world. And I did it until I got shooken about. My dad was 56 years old when he had his first heart attack. That shook us up because we had some bad eating habits at the time. I was working out, but I had bad eating habits. But that was a pivot point where we started to say, wait a second. At 56, Dad had to have a quadruple bypass surgery. And so what are the habits that got us there? Because the product, our life today, as we look at it, our money today, as we look at it, is a product of the choices, the decisions, the habits, and the behaviors from the past. And that can be confronting for people because they say, well, wait a second, that means I have to take responsibility for where I'm at. Yeah. Remember what I said here is that it's important to take responsibility. I'm not saying blame. Blame too often we use as a stick to beat us up. I want you to be responsible because it sets up the ability to respond and to change, and it empowers you. So here's the thing. I want to talk about some of the habits. What I kind of looked at is the common theme here is they were vision-driven habits. If 40% of my actions are unconscious, how do I make sure that those 40% plus the rest of the 60% are moving me towards my vision first? And so what I looked at is how was I creating vision-driven habits that allowed me to accomplish certain things in my life? And when I didn't follow those habits or went in conflict with those habits, what did that do? And I want to walk you through a framework that I'm going to draw out for you real quickly, because I think that when we understand how vision-driven habits are built, then we can look at the specific habits as we move forward. So I'm going to jump to the iPad here for a second. And so if I look at this, so the very first part of this is that I think every good habit that we're trying to create starts with a desire. It has to start with something that moves us forward in desire, that gets us juice, that gets us excited. Because what we end up doing is, if it's not coming from desire, it's coming from willpower. Willpower is a exhausting energy in the sense that we will exhaust it at some point. We only have so much willpower. And so, but when we're drawn to something because of desire, then it starts to move us forward. Plus, that desire is connected to the vision that we want, and hence the vision-driven habits. But then once we have that in place and we we have the desire, there's a second stage of this that needs to come into play, and that is that we need to make a decision. Okay, we need to actually decide that we want to do something different. When I turned around and decided that I wanted to pass the CPA exam or take the CPA exam while I was in college, or I wanted to get in shape, or I wanted to be a better husband, or I wanted to be a better father, I had to make a decision, because without the decision, I'll take no action. So we're gonna create, understand our desire. We're gonna make the decision to make that a commitment. And now the third piece of this really then drives us to this idea of dedication. Are you truly going to be dedicated in your pursuit of that desire? Because here's what I know. When we start to move beyond where we are, it's going to demand more of who we are to become, because that's then the key. That also means that it's never a straight line. That also means that we're going to have obstacles. That also means we're going to have setbacks. That also means that we're going to have what people call failures. I'm going to call lessons. But failures aren't failures. They're lessons if we choose to make them lessons. They are the resistance we need to develop the muscle we need to move forward, if that makes sense. The reason we lift weights is the resistance against the muscle allows us to grow the muscle. It's the same thing with these habits. And then the fourth piece is this, is that when we have the desire, we make the decision, we dedicate to ourselves to this, then we actually have to have the discipline to follow the path that it's going to take to make this a reality. And when you start to build habits out of desire, decision, dedication, and discipline, the ultimate result is a life by design. A life that you actually have chosen to live. See, I think that so often we get in this game of life because we got a degree, because we were raised in a certain area, because we were raised a certain way, and we get on this river of life without paddles, without direction, and we just let the river take us where it wants to take us. But what we ought to be doing is saying, how do I live intentionally? How do I live consciously? How do I live aware to make that happen?
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.